Hi guys, how are you? It's Ndut once again, and I was rummaging through my pantry and I found the last of my ndengus. This is about a cup and a half of ndengu. These are green grams or green lentils or dal as the Indians call them. One thing about our Kenyan cooking is that it's heavily influenced by the Indians, and the Indians cook this a lot, yeah? So dal. And what I'm going to do is boil this, and then we'll make chapatis to accompany this. This really go well with chapati. And even though this meal is heavily influenced by the Asian culture, there's a Kenyan way of making it, yeah? Karibu. Hi, my besties. So today we are going to make mixed flour chapati, and we're going to make it kind of plain, although I will add a little milk just to cool down the water because I heated it up to 130 degrees, but we need it to be tepid, yeah? So instead of adding cold water, I'll add milk because it enriches it a bit, but just know you can add just plain water. This was supposed to be plain. That was the idea in my head, but yeah, you can totally enrich with milk, eggs, butter, and such. Yeah, so I'm going to be using 2 cups of whole wheat flour, and I use King Arthur. For those in the US, that is a very good brand of flour. And then I'm going to use also white flour, same brand, and about 5 tablespoons of ghee for this amount. I used 5 cups of flour and two of white whole white flour. Sorry, I used 5 cups of all-purpose flour, and then I added 2 cups of whole wheat, and then the water I added 4 cups and 1 cup of milk, and I would suggest you use less. Yeah, this was just a bit too much. So then today I'm going to use my mixer because it does a better job of mixing, and it's not so taxing on the hand. To make good chapatis, you want your dough to be very well done. And if you're using your hand, you want to knead until you see that the dough is picking off whatever surface, yeah? Like the surface is getting clearer. Or even if you're using a bowl and kneading inside a bowl, it should get clear by the time you're done, yeah? And this is the same result we expect here. So we'll be kneading, and I'm using speed 1 all the way. The most you can go is speed 2 on a KitchenAid. When you're doing a dough, you shouldn't do it faster than that, yeah? Since I'm speeding the video, it will look as if it's moving very fast, but it's just on speed 1. And I was hoping that you would see the whole process. Like I said, I used a little too much water, so I'll be adding the flour just like you would if you're kneading on the surface. If it gets sticky, you add a bit of flour, and that way you'll see it lifting off the surface. But you give it a bit, about 15 minutes when you're kneading with your hands, 15 to 20 minutes, even more. Because you want it to get really well done. That will ensure you get some soft chapatis, yeah? So as you can see at that point, it was still sticky. I was just looking at how, well done it is, and also checking if there's any flour stuck in the bottom. This is also something you have to do, as you can tell, yeah, if it's the flour is enough, yeah. So just by looking you can tell, but I was just doing the most over here. But we can all tell that it's still a bit sticky, so I'm adding little by little flour because you also don't want to overdo. You don't want to put too much because that will make your dough harder. But you can see the progress. The dough is lifting off the bowl, and considering we used oil, it will help with that process, yeah? So just observe what happens here. It's very vital that you do your dough properly and thoroughly. 눈 뜨면 눈부신 아침 햇살과 모닝콜로 너와 시작하는 하루, 마치 내 인생의 복
포커스가 지금에 맞춰진 걸까? 따뜻한 모닝커피의 향기가 오늘 하루도 날 기대하게 만드는 걸 우리 오늘은 또
So you will notice just how well it's done because I sprinkled some flour on the surface, and as soon as I bring my dough together, I'm not exactly kneading, I'm just bringing it together, and then you just see it's very soft and it's done. I'm going to put it back into the bowl and cover for about 20 minutes is good, but I actually left it there for about 2 hours because I went away to do something. So it doesn't hurt to keep it for as long as you can. And I transferred it into this clear bowl so you can see it doesn't exactly rise, it doesn't create bubbles as if you're using yeast, it just gets very loose and soft. Yeah, so I'm boiling my green grams in a pot because green grams are kind of soft. Yeah, you don't want to do them in an instant pot because they can overcook very easily. One thing I've added into these green grams is onions, dry onions or rack onions. These tend to swell, yeah, and that is a good idea because they will mix in with my green grams. And you find that as you boil with onion, it doesn't smell as much. Yeah, that smell of green grams is not as noticeable. In fact, it smells very nice. And I also added salt, so that's important. Yeah, and you need to keep that in mind when you're frying, not to add too much salt. Okay, and now I'm back. I want to roll out my dough, and I used to turn out my dough on the surface, and I would from that point also start kneading again. You don't have to. Actually, the whole point of getting it soft like this is so that you can roll out easily. Yeah, so I no longer knead again, so just spread it out like that with your hands and then roll it out with a cooking stick. It makes it so easy. And yes, we do want an easier soft life, don't we? So I'm going to roll it just like this. Yeah, I promise in the coming days we might do a different style, but I'm so used to this because when I'm busy, I don't have much time to do stylistic rolling. I just do this, and especially because I don't make a lot of chapatis nowadays. Yeah, so if I'm making below 20, like this one 18, I'll just do one big ball like this, and I like using ghee because it gives it extra flavor. For those who can access a lard called we call it samli. It's not exactly lard. It's cooking fat that is called cowboy. If you mix your dough like this with ghee, and then when you're cooking, you add cowboy instead of vegetable oil, it makes it even more tastier. But I have ghee and vegetable oil, so that's what we're going to use today. So spread the ghee and then sprinkle some flour. That will form your layers here. So this will be layered, not extra layered. There are styles to achieve that, but it will be layered all the same. And yes, we are going for the flavor and some fluffiness, some lightness. Yeah, all right, so same method, roll out the lines like that. These are usually portioned bigger than just one regular chapati. So you just cut once you feel like you have the right size for the ball or the tiny ball of chapati. You just cut off and start another. So I started off wanting to make my chapatis with this griddle, but it turns out that when I'm making regular chapatis, it takes a bit longer to cook them, and that could lead to some dryness. Yeah, so tried about the first four with this, and then I had to transfer to my stove and use the pans. Yeah, because the heat is way higher And I like cooking chapatis. As soon as they aerate, I oil them, I turn them, oil both sides, and then transfer. I mean, take them out because uh, you don't want them to stay in the heat too long. That may end in or may lead to some dryness, and also they may get crispy. Yeah, they may get hard.
Yeah, came at 17. Damn. Give me my money. Give me my money. Somebody owed you some money. Give me my money. Hey, check this out.
So here we are, pans heated to a high, and then I reduce my heat to about medium low. You want it lower than you would when you're cooking food because you don't want to burn your chapatis. You want them to, or you want the heat to penetrate the dough so that it lifts and aerates the whole chapati. And then you go through the process of oiling that. Very, very important because we are making what they call mama chapati. These are thicker and they are oily, right? So they go very well with the stew. And it's also the Kenyan chapati as we know it. There are other variation, like Indian variations, where yes, you use atta flour or you mix atta flour with white all-purpose, and then you cook them thin and you don't oil, yeah. Although you may need with some ghee or oil, yeah. Um, I'll do that when I have an Indian visitor. All right, so yeah, this is the outcome. Now, one thing to note, my chapatis are not very, very brown in color because I use more salt than I use sugar. Whenever you use more sugar in a dough product, you get more caramelization, and that is how some chapatis look darker. All right, but these were good and very, very tasty. So now let's make our dal. The method is curry, and I will use a lot of tomatoes and also some garlic. And I mean, for the sauce, I will use a lot of tomatoes and then eventually add some coconut cream. So that's the flavor I'm going for. And then on the side there, I have some carrots, chunky carrot that I'm just going to fry in a pan and add some herbs. So oil, make it hot so that when you add your onion, it will be really fragrant and cooks faster, I believe. One spice that you will love in your green grams is cumin, and I happen to have the last of my whole cumin seeds. I love frying it in the onion so that it pops, and I will add a bit of cumin powder, paprika. Um, I will also add a little ginger, just very, very little, so you can taste it from afar, just to give it some mystery. And I will also add some curry powder, but not as much, even though I'm making a curry. It will be a very, very mild curry. I don't want it to be like burning, yeah? So that's the thing with Kenyan homes. We don't do too much curry, especially from the central part of Kenya. I know some people would come for me like, no, they love using more spices because they're not basic. I am. So less spices, more flavor. Okay, and that is why I always enrich. That's my aesthetic. You know what they say in Indian cooking? Every Indian home has a different flavor. Some use more garlic, some use more ginger. Me, I'm not Indian. I'm from central Kenya, so I borrow from a lot of cultures, and then I like my meals a bit enriched. I feel like it just gives a warmth to my meals. All right. And so I added the liquid that was remaining in green grams. Whenever I boil green grams, I like for it to remain with a bit of liquid. And then I keep in mind whatever I will want to add. In this case, it was coconut cream. I don't always add coconut cream. Sometimes I will want my base to be tomato, so crushed tomatoes. cooking that, and it's really, really delicious, especially with the infused flavors of garlic and ginger.
I dare you to fix me.
So there are our carrots. I just cooked them in butter, dry onions, and I added a lot of parsley at the very end. The idea is just to have them flavored after boiling or steaming. Okay, and my curry is doing very well here. This sauce tends to float on top, so you may want to just stir a lot of times, yeah? And this was really delicious. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.